Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. My name, of course, is John Campea. I'll be your host today, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys, my fellow film fans, joining me here today as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, a little bit of TV. Hey, every once in a while, people even like to throw in a sports question, which I always appreciate because I'm a big sports guy, of course. And, of course, we're going to be talking about, we got some Black Panther questions coming in here, the Friends fake trailer. We got a number of things we're going to talk about. So here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off with 4 topics that you guys have told me you want me to talk about. How do you submit a topic or a question to be on the John Campea Show? It's real simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put that word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep your emails to 90 words or less. The shorter, the better. Now, after that, I'm going to save a little bit of time to take a few live questions, and that'll be our show for the day. Now, let me point something out here, too. That television show, This Is Us, it's not my kind of show, but my wife loves it. So she's constantly putting it on. And it's usually, like, I call it cry time in our house when Ann watches This Is Us, because generally it's cry time. And we'll cry watching that show, as I know a lot of people do. And so it's not really my type of show, but I must admit, I usually find myself sitting down to watch it with her. And I put out a tweet about this. I gotta say this, because the big episode just happened. The episode they've been waiting for a couple of seasons. The big episode just happened. So all I wanted to say, one of the things that struck me really was, you know what this show's really all about? Now I'll just throw this in there quickly. What this show is really all about are these 3 incredible individuals and their mom, and how they are bonded and how their lives were shaped and molded and directed by this individual, their dad, played by Milo Ventimiglia, who was so impactful on their lives and was a flawed character, yet perfect in so many ways, and had such a deep, real impact on their lives that it kind of shapes who they are today in the present because of all the flashback scenes with their dad. And I realized, it struck me today as I was watching that show with my wife, that the whole reason this show works and is so popular is because the actor Milo Ventimiglia makes us believe that this character he plays, Jack, their dad, was that man. That guy was real and tangible, and that the love he had for the kids and the way he showed his love for his family would impact their lives that much. And so I just want to start off today's show by giving a real big tip of the hat to Milo Ventimiglia and the job he has done in that show, playing that character. Absolutely phenomenal, mind-blowing. It is the spine of why that show works. It is the foundation of how that show works. And pardon me. If Milo doesn't give us that Jack character, the way he portrays him, then the emotional underpinning of the rest of the show doesn't feel as legitimate or as real. And so just wanted to say a big tip of the hat to Milo Ventimiglia for the job he does on what is one of the most popular TV shows in the world right now. Okay, anyway, with that out of the way, let's get on to the first real topic today. And the first real topic today comes to us from Toni W. And Toni W writes, "Love the show, John." Thank you so much, Toni. I really appreciate that. What do you think the opening box office for Black Panther will be? And whom do you think will win the box office between Black Panther and Infinity War? I have many valid reasons as to why I think Panther has a solid shot to edge ahead of Infinity War, but the list is too long to list here. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And really, there's 2 separate questions there. Question number 1, which is the one most of us are asking, is, how well do we see Black Panther opening? It's tough to say, except this. The tracking numbers have come out. We're now just a few weeks away from seeing Black Panther. I am seeing Black Panther tomorrow. Very excited about it. I'm seeing Black Panther tomorrow. But the movie comes out in a few weeks. The tracking numbers have come out, and they're saying it could be around $120 million opening weekend. Now, tracking numbers are usually pretty accurate, but they give or take here or there. Let's put this in perspective. The biggest opening weekend for a first solo film from a character, and remember, we're talking Iron Man, Captain America, we're talking Wonder Woman, we're talking, but the opening weekend box office record for a first solo film is Deadpool at $132 million for the Friday to Sunday weekend. With Black Panther being projected right now for 120, that means that 132 number is within reach. We could see Black Panther break the record for opening weekend box office of an initial solo film. This could happen. It's very realistic that that could happen. So I'm going to go ahead. I know the tracking numbers is about 120 right now. I'll have a better prediction on Tuesday, like after I've had a chance to see Black Panther. But I'm actually going to guess Black Panther around 130. The amount of buzz I'm feeling, the people talking about it online, and the responses I'm getting on Twitter and on YouTube and things like that, I'm thinking it could be around the 130 mark, which means it's a coin toss if it breaks the record, if it breaks Deadpool's record. So there's that. That's how well I think it could do. Like, it's not going to make 170 million opening weekend. It's not going to make 200 million opening weekend or anything like that, but it doesn't need to. It could very well break that record. We'll see. So then the other question comes, is it possible that Black Panther could actually outperform Avengers Infinity War? Now, let me start by saying this. I do not think it will. I don't think it will. I think the smart money is to bet against that. I do not think Black Panther will outperform Avengers for a number of reasons, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But if we're asking the question, could it? I think you're being naive if you don't think it could. Because there is enough precedent and actual tangible examples for us to look at that we would just be naive to not to say it's possible that Black Panther could outperform Avengers Infinity War. Will it? I don't think it will. What would I put my $5 on? I put my $5 on pretty comfortably on Infinity War beating Black Panther overall. But I think it would be naive of us not to acknowledge that there are a couple of paths to victory. That's a good sports term I use a lot. There are a couple of paths to victory that Black Panther could, theoretically, outperform Avengers Infinity War. Again, let me say right off the top, because I know people love to twist my words. I do not think it will. I think Infinity War, I would put my $5 on Infinity War. Let me repeat it again, because people love twisting my words. I believe Infinity War will outperform Black Panther. But again, let's look at some examples about how Black Panther could outperform Avengers Infinity War, okay? Here's a couple of paths to it. First of all, opening weekend, Avengers Infinity War will crush Black Panther opening weekend. Even if Black Panther, say, comes in at 135 million or something like that, Avengers Infinity War is going to get close to 200 million. Just north or south of 200 million. It's going to be in that ballpark, though. Okay, Avengers Infinity War is going to be in that 200 million ballpark. Make no mistake about it, Avengers Infinity War will be the bigger opening weekend box office. Of that, I would put $100,000, if I had $100,000. I would put $100,000 down on that. That I have no doubt. However, once that opening weekend happens, then there are a few variables that come into play here that could open the door for a Black Panther to make more than Infinity War when it's all said and done. Now, if you're saying, but John, if Infinity War opens bigger, clearly that increases the chances that it'll finish ahead of Black Panther. Absolutely does. It increases the chances. But let's look at the comic book genre and go back not so long ago to Batman versus Superman. All right? For example, Iron Man 3 opened on its opening weekend pretty similar to what Batman vs. Superman opened on its opening weekend. Iron Man 3 opened in the $170 million range. Batman vs. Superman opened in the $160 range. Like $10 to $20 million difference. So roughly they're in the same ballpark. Iron Man 3 and Batman vs. Superman both opened in the same ballpark, right? So big solid opening weekend for Batman vs. Superman. However, Iron Man 3 went on to make over $1.2 billion at the box office, whereas Batman vs. Superman, and I'm not sitting here trashing on Batman vs. Superman, I'm just saying here's a precedent for us, okay? Well, Batman vs. Superman, which opened in the same ballpark as Iron Man 3, ended up making just over $800 million. We're talking about almost a $400 million difference between Iron Man 3 and Batman vs. Superman, even though they kind of opened, their opening weekends were in the same ballpark. So yes, I completely believe Avengers Infinity War, without question, will open bigger than Black Panther. Of that I have no doubt. However, we have seen precedent in front of us before where one movie opens, roughly the same as another, but falls $400 million short. Right? Just because Infinity War opens bigger doesn't mean it'll have the same legs Black Panther does. Now, let's look at another example here in the world of film. If Black Panther opens with less, that means it will automatically make less. Not necessarily. What is the #1 box office film of all time? Worldwide. Avatar. You know what Avatar's opening weekend was? $77 million. Now, that's an exception, yes. Avatar opens with $77 million, goes on to become the biggest box office film worldwide in the world. That's the exception, not the rule. However, it does show us that if a movie comes out, can establish those types of legs, really touch on a nerve with the movie-going culture, and develop those types of legs, it can exceed well beyond what its opening weekend is. Wouldn't bet on it, but it's possible. It is the exception. Don't bet on it, but it's possible. We've also seen movies open big and then be disappointments to the audience, to the critics, and then its box office takes a big dive. So look, there are a few paths here to victory for Black Panther. I mean, they're both Black Panther and Infinity War. They're on the same team, so whatever. Marvel wins regardless. Regardless, Marvel wins. But there is a couple of paths here to victory for Black Panther, and they're kind of predicated on this. If Black Panther comes out, opens strong in that 130 to $140 million range, if it opens there, really touches a cultural nerve with the movie-going audience, really strikes well with the audience, really strikes well with with the critics, and then let's say fast forward a little bit to Infinity War comes out, and look, hey, Infinity War, maybe, I think it's going to be awesome, but for argument's sake, maybe it turns out that Infinity War, it's just too many characters. It becomes convoluted. It becomes a bit of a mess. This didn't work, and this didn't work, and this didn't work. You could potentially be in a scenario where Infinity War just does not have the legs. So where Infinity War could start here, and Black Panther could start here at their opening weekends, it is conceivable, and we have precedent before, it's conceivable that we could see as time goes on, Infinity War starts to fall behind, and maybe Black Panther surpasses that. Again, if you're just joining us, let me be clear. I believe Infinity War will outperform Black Panther. However, I think you'd have to ignore box office history, and you'd have to ignore recent box office history to not at least acknowledge that there are some variables here that could lead, theoretically, to Black Panther maybe outperforming Infinity War. It's possible. I don't think it'll happen. I would put $5 on it not happening, but it is possible. That being said, here's my biggest reason, my biggest argument against it happening, all right? My biggest argument against that happening is not so much that Infinity War is the culmination of blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, we saw that with Justice League too. Justice League was the culmination of all the DCEU films before, and we saw what happened there. True. So you can make that argument that, that's the culmination. But the biggest argument to me about Infinity War outperforming Black Panther is this. I believe that since Black Panther is himself a major character in Avengers Infinity War, Black Panther is all over that trailer for Infinity War, that, logic says that everybody who goes out to see Black Panther, if they love it, they're going to come see Black Panther again a few months later in Infinity War. So that is a really big built-in advantage. Now, some of you might be yelling at your computer monitors right now, but John, people liked Wonder Woman, and they didn't come back to watch Justice League. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That is a big deal. That is a big thing. However, like I said before, I believe that was really more of the audience making a referendum on where they thought the DCEU as a whole is. The DCU has not struck a chord with the audience or the critics the way Marvel has. Marvel is in a different position than the DCU is in. Marvel, people love the Marvel movies. The audiences love it. They're coming back. So I do not expect to see the same situation. And I know I'm going on in this a little bit too long, but I don't expect to see Infinity War be in the same position that Justice League was. Going into Justice League, you had Wonder Woman, but besides that, everything else in the DCU, despite the fact that I like the movies, everything else in the DCU had been very divisive amongst the audience. You know, a lot of the audience didn't like those films. A lot of the critics didn't like the films. Then Justice League comes, basically a referendum on where people think the DCEU is, and it becomes the lowest grossing film of all DCEU movies. Marvel is in a different position. We're coming off of 3 widely well-loved Marvel films this year. We had Spider-Man Homecoming, we had Thor Ragnarok, and why am I losing my place? Guys, help me out. What was the third Marvel film this year? Thor Ragnarok, Spider-Man Homecoming, and damn it, what was the third one? I cannot remember now for the life of me. But remind me of the thing that I'm drawing a complete brain freeze. But I know the 3 Marvel films that came out this year all outperformed the 2 DCEU movies that came out this year. Like, all 3 Marvel films did better than both of the DCEU films. So that's big. So I'm still waiting for you guys to throw in here into the chat board about what was that third? Guardians 2. Thank you. Which to me, Guardians 2 was actually the worst comic book movie of the year to me. And I liked it. But I thought Wonder Woman was better. I thought Justice League was better. I thought Spider-Man was better. I thought Thor Ragnarok was better. Logan was certainly better. But look, all that is just to say that I don't think that Avengers Infinity War is in the same unfortunate position that Justice League was. So I don't expect to see that same phenomena. I do expect to see people, even if they love Black Panther, is only going to get even more people out to watch Avengers Infinity War, despite the fact that we just saw a bunch of people go see Wonder Woman and then not come back to the theater to watch Justice League, even though Wonder Woman was a main part of it. I just think their circumstances are really different. So, bottom line in this, just to sum it up, I don't believe Black Panther will outperform Infinity War. However, precedent has shown us that we would have to be willfully naive to not at least acknowledge there are possibilities here that exist that could make it possible for it to happen. So it's going to be interesting to see. And it's going to be interesting to see if Black Panther does indeed break that record for the largest opening for a solo origin film. It's going to be interesting to see, or for the first solo film for that character. It's going to be interesting to see if that happens. All right. Let's move on to the next question now. Next question comes to us from, this one comes from Stifler's dad. For whatever reason, I forgot to put his name on there, but I remember it comes from Stifler's dad. And Stifler's dad writes, "Hey John, big fan from the homeland of the Red Sun," that's the Ukraine. "I heard you many times mention that the Oscars Best Picture category separation into Best Picture and Best Animated Picture is stupid, and I happen to agree. But I also think that there should be one Best Screenplay category instead of 2. Best Original, Best Adapted. Your thoughts, sir?" Well, you know what? It's funny because somebody actually kind of brought that up in the live questions on one of the shows this past week. And I think my response, I've given it a little bit more thought. Now, my response at the time was, you know what? I think that's a valid argument. I think there is a valid argument to be made that there should not be 2 separate screenplay categories, original and adapted. I think there's valid, but at the same time, I think there's some valid arguments about why you would have 2 separate. So what I said when the question came up live, I believe, was something along the lines of, hey man, I'm cool with it either way. I mean, I won't lose sleep over them keeping it 2 separate categories. I wouldn't lose any sleep over if they decided to merge it into one category. I've been giving it a little bit more thought, though, about that. And here's kind of how I'm leaning right now. Although my mind can be changed on this. I could think totally differently tomorrow. But here's where I'm thinking right now. Is that, look, ultimately, the screenwriter has a concept or an idea, and sits down and now has to write out a script, to flesh out a script, to make it work on the big screen. They've got to take this idea of a narrative story, take it from concept to the page, so somebody else can pick up that page and take it to the screen. The only difference between adapted screenplay and original screenplay is, where did the concept start? Was the concept an original idea that came from a producer who then passed on the idea to a writer for the writer to write it out? Or does the original idea concept come from a pre-existing piece of drama? Does it come from a pre-existing novel or pre-existing comic, a pre-existing short story, a pre-existing television series, whatever? But once you get past that, the initial concept part, the writer is in the same position. There's the concept, whether it came from a producer or from myself or from a pre-existing piece of IP. There's the concept. Now, the screenwriting process is taking the concept, putting it onto the page in such a way that it would work in a way for it to then be put on the big screen. It's really the same thing. We have drama that is original and adapted. We have comedy that is original and adapted. We've had superhero films, if you want to count Hancock or something like that, from original to adapted. We have, historical films from original, to adapted. Like original, even Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter is adapted from a novel, so there's that too. But basically, once you get past the concept stage, it's all the same. So while I would still say today, and again, you guys could change my mind. I might think different. You guys might convince me to think differently tomorrow. But right now, while I would still not lose any sleep over them keeping keeping two separate categories, I think I find myself leaning more towards, I like the idea of eliminating two separate screenwriting categories and just have best screenplay. Open it up to 10 nominees if you want, like you do for Best Picture. But I think I am now leaning towards the notion that I think I like the idea of getting rid of the original or adapted moniker. It's all still a writer who is given or has an idea, and now that writer has to flesh that out and bring it to life on the page. And that's the same process of whether it's an original idea from a producer, from somebody else who sold the idea, or the writer himself, or whether it comes from a pre-existing piece of IP. The process is still the same. So today, I think I lean towards get rid of the second category and just make best screenplay. But I'm sure you guys have some passionate opinions about that. Let me know. And again, I can have my mind changed. I'm not willing to die for that belief at this point. Let me know what you guys think. All right. Fly through the next couple ones here. Sandy Cadrick writes in, "Hey, John, love the show." Thank you so much, Sandy. Really appreciate that. About a week ago, a fake trailer about a Friends movie went viral, just like the D one. It has millions of views, and a lot of people were really excited about this movie. My question is, would the studio be intrigued in making a Friends movie from seeing a lot of positive response from this fake trailer? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. And you know what, Sandy, I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't even aware of this fake trailer until you brought it to my attention. And then I looked up and it's like, holy crap, this thing has like 8 million views. And it's all the original cast. The original cast got together to make this fake trailer. First of all, let me say this. I didn't think it was a very good fake trailer. Like, if that was the trailer to the movie, I would have no interest in seeing that movie. It was a badly made trailer. I would have no interest in it. But still, it was fun seeing this collection of performers together again to be these characters, to make it look like a Friends movie is coming. Now, you asked the question, could the response to this trailer make the studios maybe think, oh, maybe we could do one? That's not the right question. Look, I think the studios have known forever that if we made a Friends reunion movie, it would be huge. Not Avatar huge, no, but it would be huge. It would for a movie like that, I believe easily 400, 500 million worldwide. Huge for a movie like this. I think it would score big. The problem about getting a Friends movie made, I do not believe has ever been about the studio doesn't believe it could work. No, they know it could work. They would love to make a Friends movie. The problem is, can you get these characters can you get all these performers back together again? Because I just don't know that some of them would even want to do it. Or if they have the time to do it. Or because you got to have all of them, right? If you're going to do Friends, you got to have, and it's a Friends reunion, you got to have them all. They got to all be there. They all got to want to do it, and it's got to fit into all their schedules. And I think I know for a fact there's a couple of them that just have this attitude of, you know what? Friends is so special. Let's leave it be. Let's leave it be. I mean, it has never been a question about whether the studios would be open to do it. You damn right the studios would be open to making this movie. They would love to make this movie, and I have no doubt it would be huge. But can you get the performers to do it? And I'll tell you this, though. Here's what the trailer does do for me. Seeing that these actors were all willing to at least entertain the idea of doing a fun fake trailer, what I'm hoping, as somebody who would like to see this movie, I'm hoping that's a slight crack in the wall that shows that maybe in all that resolve that, no, Friends is super special the way it is, we should leave it alone. Maybe there's a crack starting in there, and maybe a couple of these actors are starting to think, maybe. I mean, if they're willing to come and do something fun like this little fake trailer, even though it wasn't very good, if they're willing to come and do that, maybe, just maybe, they'd actually be willing to come back and do a full movie. I don't know. All I can tell you is this. I would love it. I really do. I think that, aside from a couple of seasons, I think that show was brilliantly written and perfectly performed. And I would completely be up for checking out that movie. And you know what? Here's the beautiful thing about it. This isn't a movie that would cost $130 million to make. You can make this movie, even with whatever the salary demands are, you can make this movie for like 65, 70 million bucks. Which is still expensive per se, but compared to what I think its upside is, which is a $400 to $500 million box office, I think that would make it a no-brainer if you can convince a talent to come in and do it. So anyway, that's just what my thoughts on that are. All right, let's move on to the final emailed in question today, and then I'll take some time for some live questions. And by the way, guys, if you've not, let me just say this quickly. If you have not sent in a live question yet, please do not send in a live question anymore. I'm just going to take the ones that are there, and then we're going to wrap up the show for the day because I've gone a little bit long because of that Black Panther topic. But the final question today comes to us from Douglas Bastilio, who writes, I'm all for equal pay between men and women. And with all the controversy surrounding huge gap differences between actors and actresses, in a foreseeable future, will this potential increase in salary for women affect the ticket prices for audiences? I mean, it would make movies more expensive, wouldn't it? Or would studios be willing to take cuts in revenues to accommodate those increases in payment? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Douglas. And yeah, the issue about pay disparity, especially in movies, between actors and actresses has been a big topic in the forefront recently. I have two different thoughts on that. Thought number one is this. Just because one movie has a leading actor and a leading actress and they both have the same amount of screen time does not mean they should be paid equal. All right? Let's make that clear. Because if one is some brand new actress nobody's ever heard of, and one is Ryan Gosling, well, who's the draw then? Ryan Gosling's the draw. Therefore, his value to the project is much higher. Therefore, even though you have an actor and an actress with the same amount of screen time and the same amount of lines, no, their pay should not be equal. It shouldn't be equal. Much like the opposite way. Like if you want to take, oh, I keep forgetting the name of the actor. He's on, Jess. What's the name of the show? It's Jess, right? That's the name of the show? It's Jess? Anyway. And he was in The Mummy with Tom Cruise. He plays Jess's boyfriend in the show. You know, he's a really funny guy, actually. Let's say you had a romantic comedy, right? And you had, I can't remember the actor's name, but you have him as the lead. And as the female lead, you have Jennifer Lawrence. They have the same amount of screen time. They have the same amount of lines. Well, then shouldn't they be paid equal? No. Jennifer Lawrence is clearly the bigger draw. So Jennifer Lawrence is the one who should get paid more. It's not an equal game, okay? So that's not the issue, and that shouldn't be the issue. There should not be serious discussions that, well, a leading actress in a film should be paid the same as a leading actor. Not if they're not on the same level, they shouldn't. not if they're not the same draw as the other, because that is what it's all about. So no, I reject that kind of thinking. However, there have been situations where, oh my God, we've got an Academy Award winning actress who does draw big for other films and stuff like that. And she's in a movie where she's just as big in the movie as the actors in the role, but the actors are getting like 40, 50, sometimes 70% more in their paycheck than the actresses. That's different. That's a different scenario. Because now you're talking about a scenario where, hey, you know what? You cannot tell me that that actor is a bigger talent and a bigger draw than that actress is, and yet that actor is getting 40% more in their paycheck than the female actress is. That stuff's got to go away. That's got to be taken care of. Okay, now with that being said, here's my caveat here. Would increasing actresses' salaries increase the ticket prices for moviegoers? Yeah, it would. Anything that increases the cost of making movies increases the ticket prices for moviegoers. But that is not the question we should be asking. The question is, how much are we fucking paying the actors that they make so much more than these actresses? Because that's what's affecting our ticket prices. See, to me, the answer to this problem is not giving the actresses a raise, because the actresses are making plenty of money. Don't cry to me about how much Octavia Spencer makes in her movies, all right? The answer, I believe, if I'm a studio head, the answer to me is not by giving all the actresses big raises. That's not the answer to me. But John, you just said if they're equal draw and equal talent, and if all that is equal, they should be paid roughly the same. How are you now saying actresses shouldn't be getting a raise? Because the fucking actors need to take a pay cut. Because I've been saying forever, the price tag that some actors are calling for is absolutely ludicrous. And it blows my mind every time that movie fans, I'm frustrated at us as movie fans here sometimes too. Because whenever the conversation comes up about there's a contract fight going on between the studio and this actor wants $30 million. For whatever reason, because we have this built-in mentality, it's natural for us to want to go, we'll take the side of whoever's against the man. But the man's right in this situation. Doesn't matter. Go against the man. Stand up for the artist. And we just turn our brains off. I don't give a fuck what you think about Robert Downey Jr. He does not deserve $40 million for a movie. No actor does. None. No actor deserves that kind of money. That's bullshit. Unless Robert Downey Jr., and I love Robert Downey Jr., you know I love Robert Downey Jr., but unless Robert Downey Jr. finishes his day on set and then goes into a surgical room to repair a guy who's been in a motorcycle accident and repairs his spine to make that guy walk again, Robert Downey Jr. does not deserve $40 million. But John, he's so big and popular. Is he? Because guess what? When he was in the midst of his contract dispute with Marvel, he went off and made his own movie. Remember this? He made it with Robert Duvall. It's called The Judge, and he produced it, and he starred in it. You know, and Robert Downey Jr., the big box office draw. You know how much money that movie made in North American box offices? You want to guess? 400 million? Nope. 325 million? Nope. 300 million? Nope. 250 million? Nope. 210 million? Nope. 190 million? Nope. 150 million? No. $100 million? Nope. $75 million? Nope. $50 million? Nope. Made 47 million bucks. Robert Downey Jr., the big draw. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't twist my words here. Obviously, there's a difference just between Robert Downey himself and Robert Downey in the role of Iron Man. I understand that completely. But I think we have to acknowledge we are living in an age now. Maybe in the 80s it was different. But we are no longer living in the age where the actor is the one that draws in the audience. That doesn't exist anymore. We've seen Will Smith be in bombs. We've seen Robert Downey Jr. be in bombs. People don't rush out to the theaters just to see that actor. So yes, I believe they should work in Hollywood at equaling out the pay between the pay that equally draw-worthy and equally talented actresses who do have an equal level in a movie with their corresponding male actors. They should work at evening out that pay balance. I completely agree with you. Absolutely. However, I do not believe the answer is just to start throwing more money into the pot, which results in the movies being more expensive to make, which results in the studios demanding more money from the movie theaters, which results in the movie theaters charging you and me more money for our movie tickets. We cannot complain about the cost of going to the movies if we're going to stand up and go, oh, give Robert Downey Jr. his $60 million. You don't get to do both. You don't get to have both. You don't get to say, oh, just give the actor whatever money they want and then go, why does it cost so much for me to go to the movies? They are connected. So yes, they should work at evening out. Sorry, I get passionate about this. I don't know why. This is not like, it doesn't affect me all that much. But anyway, they do need to try to balance out the pay disparity for equal talent, equal draw. Yes. But the answer is not by throwing more money in. To me, the answer is start bringing the ridiculous dollar values of some of these actors down. Don't get me wrong. Actors deserve to make a big amount of money, especially if they're really talented and really successful and they're a draw. They deserve to make good money. Great money, even. But some of the dollar values we're talking about some of these actors making is unfucking real and unfucking acceptable. And I believe the answer is not to just give more money to actresses. The answer is no. Start bringing down these actors. Start bringing them down. Because guess what? If you make $7 million for, showing up to a set for 3 months, you got to spend 3 months on a set and you get cut a check for $7 million. Don't complain. Don't complain. Not when most of the people who are going to your movies, that's more money than they will ever make in their lives. Don't complain. And I'm not complaining about $7 million. I'm not complaining about a $5 million paycheck. In extreme situations, I'm not even complaining about a $12 million paycheck. But the day of some actors taking home $30, $35 million, that has to stop. It's got to stop. And it's all a part of the larger discussion about how I believe movie studios have to rein in the out of control costs of making these movies, because as long as they don't and they keep running wild and actors keep asking for more and more money, then the ticket prices at movie theaters are going to keep going up and less people are going to go to the movie theaters. And it's just, we are killing the industry. And it's a systemic problem that I have always believed starts with the movie theaters getting out of control with their spending. Because the price tag ultimately always gets passed on to us. And anyway, sorry, I went on a big, huge, long rant that nobody asked for, and I apologize for that. But anyway, I just feel pretty strongly about that. Okay, so with that out of the way, let me get in now to the live questions. I'm going to try to get through these as quick as I can. Again, guys, do not send in any live questions. If you have not sent in a live question yet, do not send. I want to get through the ones I got here, and we're going to call it a day. All right. Let me freshen up my tea here a little bit so my throat can get through this. All right, the first question comes to us from Andy A. Hernandez, who writes, what do you think is going to happen with the Simpsons ride? Is it going to stay at Universal or move to Disney? It all depends on the contract. If the contract Fox has with Universal is that Universal gets to have the Simpsons property in their theme parks for the next 20 years, then that's what's going to happen. Nothing will change until their contract expires. If the contract expires next year, then maybe we'll see it move. But if the contract, which is probably a longer term contract, is for another 10 years, another 20 years, then there's nothing Disney can do about it. Disney has to honor whatever deal there was. So it really all depends on the deal. Andy also writes, have you ever played Settlers of Catan Fire Game? I've played Settlers of Catan, fun game, and kicks ass at it, but I've never heard of the Fire Game. So I don't know if that was a typo or if that's a different version of the game. If it's a different version, I gotta admit, I've never played it. Adrian Avalar writes, is Star Wars still finding its averages in the box office? I think The Force Awakens overperformed. It's hard to replicate a 10-year drought. Anticipation after 2012, plus the nostalgia, especially since Star Wars is annual now. Oh, look, Adrian, you're saying exactly what I was saying for the last 2 years. I've been saying for the last 2 years that there is no way the next Star Wars... I mean, everything was possible. Sure, it was possible. But I did not believe at all that the next Star Wars movie, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, I've been saying for years it's not going to do as well as The Force Awakens. I've been saying for years, there are too many circumstances, like you are pointing out, Adrian, that were just too special and unique to The Force Awakens coming out. It was a perfect storm of circumstances and situations being brought in together that resulted in it maybe even overperforming a little bit. Sure. But I've said forever that it wasn't going to equal. Look, Star Wars The Last Jedi, regardless of what anybody wants to say about it, here are undisputable facts. These are facts. Star Wars The Last Jedi ended 2017 as the #1 domestic movie in North America of 2017. It ended as the #1 worldwide movie of 2017. It ended as the #2 all-time box office grossing Star Wars film, just behind The Force Awakens. It performed very, very well. Can you make an argument that it underperformed? Sure, but that's a subjective term. To what underperforming means to you might mean to somebody else. But you can make that argument. You can make that argument that, hey, maybe it should have made 1.6 million instead of 1.3 or 1.4. Maybe it should have made 1.7 million. You can make that argument for sure. But that's a subjective argument. The facts are, it finished #1 domestically. It finished #1 in the year worldwide as the #2 all-time Star Wars movie. It did pretty good. It did pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean you should love it if you didn't like it. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying from a business point of view, when the movie finished, when you win the gold medal, you sound a little silly complaining about the performance. Like, when the track runner wins the gold medals, yeah, he won the gold, but he could have run faster. But, okay, yeah, but he ended up with the gold medal. I mean, so, like, for 2017, The Last Shot, I ended up with the gold medal. But, I mean, that's just what it is. Again, though, just because it did that well at the box office doesn't mean if you didn't like the movie, you should have liked it. Not at all. That's a different conversation completely. You're totally within your opinionated rights to like or not like that movie, and there's nothing wrong with that, regardless of how good or not good the movie did at the box office. All right, Tyler Eklund writes, "Hey, John, keep up the great work." Thank you so much, Tyler. I appreciate that. I forgot to bring up the questions here. Let me bring up the questions. So there's Tyler. Thank you so much, Tyler, for that comment. Micah T writes, "Do you want or care to see Red Skull come back?" I would love to see Red Skull come back. I mean, I just love Agent Smith. Why am I am brain freezing all day today on tons of information that I know. But anyway, the actor who, of course, from Lord of the Rings and who's Agent Smith. I love this actor. Why am I brain freezing on his name? I don't know today. But anyway, I loved him as Red Skull. However, if they want to bring Red Skull back, they will probably have to bring in a different actor to do it, because the actor who played Red Skull is very famously mentioned he does not want to come back and do it again. I mean, he's also acknowledged his contract and that Marvel could force him to come back, but I don't think Marvel would do that. So if they did it again, they probably have to do it with another actor. I'd be down for it, but if it's not going to be the same actor, I'm still down for it. I'm just not quite as excited about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's see, Cobra writes, "Why no Razzie nom for the Snowman? It was awful." Well, I mean, yes. I mean, yes, Snowman was terrible. Just terrible movie. But could the Razzies have, yes, but remember, the Razzies are not to be taken seriously. They're meant to be taken in fun. Like, did The Snowman deserve the best or the worst picture nomination more than Monster did? Or Mother, I should say? Maybe. Maybe it did. But, I mean, the point of the Razzies is just to be taking fun jabs at certain movies in Hollywood that year. It's not to be taken seriously. So I don't think, Kobo, we should be getting into a debate about which movie deserved it more. It was just in fun. And that's why I love it so much. It's just done in fun. George Lucas. Really? Wow, George Lucas. George Lucas writes, "Do you think Lucasfilm will be stuck creating Star Wars and Indiana Jones content forever? I think it would be interesting to see how they could handle new franchises." Well, I mean, traditionally speaking, Lucasfilm has made other movies besides Indiana Jones, and not a lot, but they have made other films other than Indiana Jones and Star Wars. I think right now, clearly their focus is on relaunching and reestablishing Star Wars. That is clearly their focus right now. But I agree, George, I think at some point, Lucasfilm will again start venturing out into making new IP. Once everything gets settled, once they get their streaming service up and going, once they get into their pattern of one, maybe even 2 movies a year, which I never thought would happen, but maybe it will. Once they get, their live action series going on stream, once all that's established, and if it's working, then I think you'll probably see Lucasfilm start to do some other experimental stuff. And it'll be interesting to see what they do when that happens. Anthony R. writes, "A lot of people are expecting a new Jedi Order by the time Episode 7 came out. Since that wasn't the case, do you think Episodes 10, 11, 12 could be what 7, 8, and 9 should have been with Jedi finally restored? Well, first of all, I don't acknowledge, Anthony, your use of terminology, what 7, 8, and 9 should have been. I don't think 7, 8, and 9 should have been about the reestablished Jedi Order. If it did, I would have been fine with it, but I also like what they've done with it, so I'm totally cool with it. If they'd go into 10, 11, and 12, yeah, look, if they keep making the episodic movies, which I do believe they will do, what I believe everything with Rey, and what I believe with that little broom kid at the end of The Last Jedi indicates is that the Force has reawakened. The Force is now returned. The Jedi Order is coming back. And that's why Rey took those Jedi texts out of the tree, which, by the way, makes me love. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but knowing that Rey took the Jedi books out of the tree before Yoda burned it down makes me love Yoda all the more, because essentially Yoda let Luke think the books were still in there. Yoda essentially, in modern context, Yoda trolled Luke. He totally trolled Luke. He made Luke think that he burned down the tree with all the books still in there. It makes me love that scene even more, but that's just kind of my thoughts on that. Thanks a lot for bringing that up, Anthony. Adrian Avalar writes, so the Golden State Warriors are pretty good. Yeah, no kidding. Not sure anyone can beat them 4 out of 7. It's not impossible, but it's definitely tall order. I'll tell you what. First of all, any team that LeBron James is on, never count him out. No matter, because remember, every year he was on the Miami Heat, they had big stretches of struggle. His first year with Cleveland, there was big stretches of struggle. Right now, the team is going through a big stretch of struggle. But don't forget, just about 2 months ago, they had a 14-game winning streak too. But more than that, I watched the Celtics play the Warriors the other night. I wouldn't put $100 on the Warriors beating the Celtics in 7. I put $5 on it. I'd put $10 on it, but I wouldn't put $100 or $1,000 on that. The Celtics played them hard. And I saw a team, that Celtics team, they can beat the Warriors. They can. I would put small money on the Warriors. I believe the Warriors would win that, but no way I'm putting $100 on that. No way. There's just not enough pot equity there for me. That's a poker terminology. There's just not enough pot odds there for me to put that in there. So I do not count out the Celtics. And then anytime there's a team called the San Antonio Spurs, never count them out entirely either. Anthony R. writes again, with less knowledge than Luke had, do you think Rey can rebuild an entire order to its former glory with just Jedi books and Ghost Luke? Well, I mean, remember, Luke had 5 minutes in the Millennium Falcon with Ben Kenobi and a weekend with Yoda. I mean, so it's not like Luke had all that big of a head start when he started the process of trying to put back the Jedi Order. He had to learn a bunch. He had to figure out a bunch. He probably had to go across the galaxy many times on adventures to collect those texts, or before he even found the island with those texts. Rey's one big advantage is that while she didn't have 5 minutes with Kenobi and a weekend with Yoda, she did have a couple of days with Luke. But more importantly than that, she is starting with those Jedi texts. And that will be a good start-off point. So I think, yeah, they can do it and they can explain it. As long as they don't have her doing it overnight, I think we'll see her doing it. Jesse Rio writes, I have absolutely no interest in seeing Infinity War at the theater. We'll wait for it on demand, or I don't know what WE is. Am very much looking forward to Black Panther in theater, even though I'm sick of cartoony Marvel movies. Well, you know what, Jesse? You're not alone. You're not alone. I mean, you're in the minority. I think you're clearly in the minority. Nothing wrong with being in the minority. I am often in the minority. Even as a pasty white guy, I'm often in the minority. So, yeah, look, I think there are a lot of people that are really excited about Black Panther. And we'll see how that goes. Again, I still think Infinity War is going to outdo it. I think there are people like you, but I think you're in the minority on that. And we'll just have to wait and see how it kind of plays out. But I think there are a lot of people who are underestimating just how excited some people are to see Black Panther. And I mean, that's a human trait we have, that because I'm not excited about it, I don't realize there are other people psychotically excited about it. And I think there are a lot of people out there who are underestimating just how excited certain segments of the movie-going audience are excited to see Black Panther. And we'll see how that actually fleshes itself out. All right, next one comes to us from Jake C., who writes, would you rather have seen Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4 or Marc Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man 3? I will say I'm okay with both scenarios the way they played out. I think I would have rather seen Marc Webb's Spider-Man 3 because, you know me, I don't like one director being on one franchise for too long. There are a few exceptions to that. But, you know, I think Sam Raimi showed in Spider-Man 3 his creative juices on that franchise were just running out. They were just running out. And before you go, but John, is the studio's fault because they made him put in Venom. Then make a good movie with Venom. There, problem solved. Then make a good movie with Venom. Go. I mean, so I just think, because Sam Raimi's a genius. He is. But I just think because he was on that one franchise for too long, it started to wear out. At least Marc Webb was only going into his third film instead of his fourth. So just on that basis alone, I think I would have been more excited to see him try to course correct what they did in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and see if he could have rebounded from that with a decent Spider-Man 3. But again, I'm okay with the way both situations worked out. I really am. Dark Clay just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Dark. Jake C. writes in, could two Batmans take out a Wolverine? I think one Batman could take out a Wolverine. I think a Wolverine could take out Bat, but I could totally see a fight. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. Two Batman, like Batman cloned, fighting Wolverine, Batman wins that fight. Easy. One Batman versus Wolverine, it's a coin toss to me. Advith writes, what's your opinion of Slumdog Millionaire? As an Indian, I was surprised it won so many Academy Awards. Seen better Indian movies which were nominated as Best Foreign Language Film, but not win. I thought Slumdog Millionaire was fantastic. I love that movie. And it played great for a North American audience. That's why it won. And that's why it was recognized. Let's put it this way. Slumdog Millionaire is a better movie for North American audiences, which is what the Academy is. That's why they have their Hollywood Awards and they have their Foreign Language Awards. I thought Slumdog Millionaire was brilliant. I thought it deserved Best Picture. I had a lot of fun with that movie. I thought it was brilliantly performed, brilliantly directed, really heartfelt in many cases too. And it was just a treat. I thought the movie was a treat. I love that movie. I really, really do. Ben Rayner writes, you don't think Patrick Stewart's next movie after Logan, emoji, hurt his Oscar chances, do you? I doubt. Oh, no. Look, everybody in the Academy is in the movie-going business. They have all done something great and then something they followed up with that, wasn't anything. Patrick Stewart, everybody knows that first of all, Patrick Stewart went into a voice booth for one day, maybe even like just 2 hours to record a couple of lines. If Patrick Stewart was an important part of that movie and he turned in a crappy performance and his performance was one of the reasons the movie was terrible, then maybe, even then, I don't think the Academy would look at that because that's not what it's about. It's about that one performance. So no, I do not believe whatsoever. I know that it is funny seeing some people spouting that on Twitter and online saying, oh, the reason he probably didn't get it is because he was involved in the Emoji Movie. That has nothing to do with it. If the Oscars were voted on by a bunch of guys who had no clue about the movie business, maybe I could conceivably see that happening. But this is all people who worked in the movie business, in or around the movie business for a very long time. They all know how to draw a distinction between those things and differentiate them. And they all knew that's not like Patrick Stewart turned in a crappy performance in Emoji Movie. He went into a voice booth for 2 hours one day and recorded 7 lines. I mean, so no, that had nothing to do with it whatsoever. I'm absolutely 100% certain about that. Chris Martin writes, favorite Star Wars video game, X-Wing and TIE Fighter. Those are my 2 favorite Star Wars video games, the originals. Henry Stevens writes, good evening from the UK, just been in the cinema and someone was chatting and took his shoes and socks off during the film. All they did was give him, as the phase goes, a slap on the wrist. Thoughts? Well, I'm not going to lie. Without my feet being sweaty, there are a few times I've slipped my, I will, if it's a summer or a spring and I've got sandals on or whatever, I've slipped them off, sure. I've never taken my socks off in a theater. You know what? Maybe practically there's not that big of a difference. But to me, mentally, there's a difference. That's not cool. That's not cool taking off your socks. So, but I mean, I wouldn't punish somebody for that. I mean, they should know better, but I wouldn't throw somebody out of a theater for that unless their feet ranked. But talking, again, I'm cool with somebody leaning over once in a while to their friends and whispering something. Hey, did you notice what he did there? Or something like that. I don't mind that. It's like, oh, wow. Hey, man, what do you want to do after the movie? I want to go over to Trader Joe's and buy me some steak or something like that. I don't know. That's a problem. But I don't know what you mean by slap on the wrist. Like, I think people who are doing that need to be warned. And then if it continues, they need to be removed. And movie theaters need to grow a bigger set. And that's one thing I'll say about, I'm not a big fan for many reasons of the Alamo Drafthouse. I've become less of a fan of theirs over the years. But one of the things they do right is how to handle with disruptive audience members. They'll kick you out. And I think more movie theaters have to take a line like that, because maybe you'll lose a couple of customers that way, but you'll gain more customers in the long run by having a more enjoyable movie-going experience. Just my thoughts. Chris Martin says, sorry if it's been asked before, but any news on Man of Steel 2? Not really. I mean, there's rumors about, this person says he's in talks to direct it. There's rumors about, oh, with the reshuffle, maybe it'll be back on. But there's really been nothing solid yet at this point. The concept of a Man of Steel 2 is the only thing that even makes me remotely interested in the DCU not rebooting. Is the idea that, hey, if it reboots, I don't get Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill, that sucks. But I still want it to reboot because I think it'll be healthier for the DC brand overall, but we'll just have to see. But no, I haven't heard any solid news, Chris. Cobra writes, could Incredibles 2 beat Infinity War at the box office? No, I don't think so. I'm not even sure that, I don't think, I'm in the minority here, but I don't think Incredibles 2 makes $1 billion. I think it makes $700, $800 million, and that'll be great. Whereas, you know, Infinity War is going to be flirting with 1.5. It might even flirt with $2 billion. It might even flirt with $2 billion. Infinity War could conceivably be the fourth film in history to hit $2 billion. I don't think it will, but I don't see Incredibles 2 topping it. That's just my opinion. It could change. KB2 writes, if Marvel does an Avengers versus X-Men movie, who wins? I don't want them to do that. To me, that's just way too convoluted. That sounds more like an interesting 10-minute YouTube video that somebody makes than a full-length feature film. But if Marvel does that, who wins? I mean, I don't know. Theoretically speaking, the X-Men, you could have hundreds of mutants, you know. It's whoever the studio head wants to win. That's who's going to win. I really don't know which way they would go with that. Zenim writes, tickets to Justice League costed the same as Shape of Water. Justice League being much more expensive to make. Actress receiving more wouldn't change the price of the ticket. You are missing the point. The point is that we have consistently and systematically watch the cost of movies go up and up. And this is not debatable. This isn't subjective. This is fact. We have systematically watched the cost of movies over there used to be a day when the idea of a movie costing $200 million to make was ridiculous. Now it's just common. Every big movie costs over $200 million. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They have gone up and up and up and up. Now you're saying the tickets to the cost the same as Shape of Water. No, but you are looking things on a week-to-week basis. I'm saying you need to sit back and look at year over year. Do you think movie tickets cost the same right now as they did 5 years ago? No. You want to know why? There's several smaller factors, but the biggest factor is because the cost of making the movies have gone up and up, which means the studios need more and more of a return on their money to justify spending that much money, which means they have to go to the theaters and demand more and more a cut of the movie ticket price, which forces the theaters to then increase the cost of the tickets because they need to compensate for what the studios want, because the studios need more money because they spent more money on the movies. You can't take a short, narrow view of that. You can't look at it on a day-to-day basis. You have to look at it as year over year. And what have we indisputably seen year over year? The cost of making the movies going up significantly, and the cost of going to the movies going up. And like, yeah, you can make there's inflation. Yeah, inflation's a part of it and stuff like that. But hey, I still remember a day when I went to the movies for $4. And guess what? The loaf of bread ain't 6 times more today than it was when I went to the movies for $4. And so you can't just write it off to inflation. Believe me, there is a cause and effect there. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, hey John, good see ya. Thoughts on the book Cat's Cradle by Kurt Wagner? Haven't read it. I just be honest with you, I can pretend that I read it, but I haven't read it, so I can't give you an honest opinion on that. ZCM Zombies writes, favorite quote from The Room. Oh, God. I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, there's a big stereotypical moment. I did not do it. I did not hurt them. I did not. Well, hi, Marc. I mean, that was great too. Let's play football. That's in there. Oh man, I'd have to think about it, man. But there's some golden turds in The Room. Absolutely, there are. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, listen, guys, I got a little change coming to the John Campea Show this week. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but there's a change coming. I'm excited. I mean, it's still going to be the John Campea Show. Don't get me wrong. But there's a bit of a change coming. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to share it with you. It's going to happen this week, not tomorrow, not on Monday, but sometime this week. It's going to happen. I'm very excited to share it with you, and we'll see how all that goes. Anyway, guys, listen, thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate when we have the same opinions. I appreciate when we have different opinions on movies and the subjective nature of all that kind of stuff. Thanks for being here, guys. My name's John Campea. Thanks for joining me, and until my next video, bye-bye.